Welcome to the Letters Page, a podcast where we write Sentinel comics.
I'm Adam.
And I am Christopher.
What's up, buddy?
It's another beautiful day. The weather has finally turned.
Broke. Oh, my God.
It's so good. Like, today it's 72 degrees outside, which is actually a little warm. Don't worry. Here in St. Louis, today it's 72. Tomorrow it's 40.
Oof.
But it's still fine. It's still, you know.
Yeah, I think that it doesn't get above the 60s here today, and it doesn't get below the 50s tomorrow. Like, at night, obviously.
You're in the beautiful zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's my favorite weather. Light jacket weather.
I was being talked to by Ness this morning.
What a way to phrase it. I envision you drinking coffee, staring into the middle distance just because your brain is not fully online.
Well, no, I was like, I was talking about actually how I was like just kind of staring at my kid earlier and like thinking how cool he was. And she was like, it's noticeable, the SADS, the seasonal affective disorder.
Yeah.
She's like, it's noticeable. Like you're a different person. You like, it seems like you like the kids again.
Aww.
I was like, oh, oops. But like, it is. I get hit hard by that when it's just cold and gray and dark, and like the moment the sun comes out again, the moment that it's nice, I don't even need to be in the sun. I can feel it. I know it's there. Like everything changes. I'm like better. So that's good.
Good.
I'm a fan of that.
I am glad that you are enjoying this nice weather.
I took walks. I get to take my walks again. I like my nighttime walks.
Yeah, but it's got to be warm enough because nighttime during cold time is rough.
Yeah, I don't do it during cold time. Because it was like -5, or like at least feels like -5.
Right. It's probably only like actually 12 degrees, you big baby, but with the wind chill.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think we had one night that was actually -5 and felt like -15 or something like that. But
Oof.
But yeah, like I like to take my nighttime walks, and if it's in the high 30s, I'm still okay to do that. Like I'll put a hat on or whatever. Yeah. And but what's great is if it's like high 40s, low 50s, that's perfect. That's a beautiful nighttime walk. You just like get out there, have just you in the sky and the nighttime, and no one's around, and just like walk around the neighborhood, and it's so nice. And
so when you're walking around the neighborhood, I'm in the sky up above you?
Yes, you are in the sky.
Right. You're I'm taking my nighttime walk, and there's Christopher in the sky. I'm like, hello,
Christopher
Adam.
in the sky.
Hello.
Yep.
It is I, the sky, Christopher.
Yep. And I'm like, glad to know you're watching over me.
Absolutely, Adam. Don't trip on that branch.
I have a lot of bats in my neighborhood.
Those are my emissaries.
Which is pretty cool. Like, because you'll just be walking down the street and just see like bats flying across. They kind of steer clear of humans. So a lot of bats, owls, frogs. So like once it gets closer to summer, you start hearing all that stuff. It's really neat.
I thought you were going in a direction of a fantastic segue for today's episode.
Oh.
But then you went to frogs.
No, I was just talking about real stuff.
Then you went to frogs and owls, and those
I could go back
help.
to the bats and
Could
how
you do
cool
that?
they are. Yeah. So you like see them lit by the moon.
Oh, that's good.
Sometimes
That's good.
In the dim shadow of a street lamp.
Uh-huh. And they come flapping at you to drink your blood?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Adam, speaking of that.
Yeah. Unless you have someone protecting you from them.
Oh,
but who could?
You could have, like, your friend Sven there to protect you, or Sven's fine. But what about the Prime Wardens?
The Prime Wardens versus bats.
That's right. That's it.
And nothing else.
Nope. So in today's issue, the Prime Wardens beat up a whole bunch of bats. It's pretty trivial. Not a very good issue.
Yeah. This got panned by PETA for probably good reason. It's like, why?
I wouldn't say panned. Like, this is not... That's the thing critics do. This is
protested by...
Yeah, there you go.
By PETA. Yeah.
Okay, so to talk about this issue, Adam, were talking about this a little bit before we live, and then we were like, we should do this on the episode.
Yeah.
We should talk about Charles.
Yes.
Charlie Cuthbert.
Charlie Cuthbert. Yeah.
So Charlie Cuthbert was an incredibly prolific writer in the late 80s throughout most of the 90s. He did some stuff beyond that. He did a little bit before that, but like late 80s and through the 90s. The era that Adam and I talk a lot about is like, the 90s time. Mm-hmm. He is one of the big writers in that time.
Yeah.
He's prolific. He's distinctive. He gets comics, and he does a lot of Night Mist stuff. He does a lot of Prime Warden stuff. It's
like the most substantial run on Prime Wardens that anyone has, I'm pretty sure.
I believe that is correct. Even though a lot of his Tempest is the flat Tempest that later gets retconned to being...
is it? I feel like that Tempest doesn't really happen until the late 90s, but...
It happens in mid-90s, I'm going to say.
Because we don't... It's not until it's
the Bloodsworn
aughts that we reset it.
It gets reset in the aughts, but I believe it's the mid-90s. But I'm not saying like it's a majority of his prime of his Tempest time. I'm just saying that he is the writer that is.
So maybe he just
book.
like kind of abandoned Tempest a little bit. Was like
I think so. I think
that when he was not the biggest Tempest fan.
Well, and because like a lot of the stuff he does is human interactions and human like emotional stuff, and it's not that Tempest can't have emotional stuff, and it's not about Tempest not being human in this case. It's that like. Tempest stories are less about that and more about like him learning this new weird place and interacting with different alien things. Like Tempest is better handled over in Cosmic Tales at the time, but yeah, that happens in January at the very beginning of 94. Mm-hmm. So it's really like you get a couple of
I just didn't think that there was like a mark of like this is where Tempest started sucking. I thought that it was just like a gradual decline over that, but like
it is a gradual decline. The retcon says, the event that happened in January of 94 is what began
replaced
this.
him. Yeah.
And that was chosen because through the bulk of the 90s, Tempest is kind of flat. But here we are, the story we're doing today, 1991. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So anyway, Charlie Cuthbert, excellent writer, does a lot of great work. And this is a time also in which the issues are, definitely, you've got arcs and you've got stories and you've got things that happen. But a lot of the storytelling isn't, well, here we have this 6-issue arc and then the next 6-issue arc and then the next issue arc. It's like, no. It's stories are just kind of happening and they go from one thing to another. And some stories are wrapped up in an issue or two. And some stories, especially like B plots and things, drag out for a long time. There's certainly some amount of B plots that are happening during this issue that I don't even know that we have the context to get into in this era.
I don't think so. But it gets a little soapy, and that's
right. Yeah,
people really respond to that.
People respond to it well. They like it, and it's not really until people have an amount of outside view of it or retrospection that this sort of writing gets referred to as like comic book soap opera writing, because it like definitely is, but it's not thought about that way in the moment when people are doing it. Like he's not setting out to be like, I'm going to write soap opera type stories. It's like, no, I'm going to write superhero stories, but in those superhero stories, there's going to be a lot of like human back and forth.
Right.
This is where you get will they, won't they stuff. And yeah, this is like the
drama stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same tradition you get terminal ballistics out of. That definitely is
I would not be surprised if this is the origin, if his run is the origin of the Ra Fanatic, will they, won't they?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know exactly where that starts, but like I would not be surprised.
The Ra Fanatic, will they, won't they, it was a thing that like you get Ron Fanatic in the 80s, earlier on in the 80s, and people going, oh man, wouldn't this be cool? And so like it's a kind of a fan thing. And yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense to have him pulling Ra in and having an amount of tension there, but nothing comes of it until a writer and artist team do something later in the 90s and aughts with it. Do you know who that writer and artist team is, Adam?
That's us, right?
That's us. Yeah.
That's us.
That's us. That's us. We are the ones that go, listen, we're doing it.
Enough is enough.
They kiss.
That's the first
on page.
That's like one of the first things we do, actually.
Yeah.
Let's just go, let them kiss already.
But we're not at that point yet either. And I don't know if this is, I know that Fanatic's important in this story, but I don't know that Ra is in this story. No, that he isn't. He might be in this story in a non-Court of Blood capacity. But because I will say, for as much as we know, like many of the bullet points of the story, we don't know. We're coming into this one pretty blind. The main thing we wanted to talk about before we did so is we know who the writer is. We know the kind of stuff is going on in Prime Wardens these days, and we know what happens in this story, which is to say the Prime Wardens fight the Court of Blood.
Yeah. This is also, so that we know this is a one-off story. Yeah. And 1991, we have a little bit more leeway because those are pretty dense comics.
Yes.
So
however,
we can fit more story than we usually do into one issue.
It's true. But also, Adam.
Yeah.
I have a proposition for you.
Okay. Proposition me.
I will.
Thank you.
I will do so now.
All right.
I think the Court of Blood, I think this issue does not feature Blood Countess Bathory.
Okay. Yeah, all right. I think that maybe we tease her because doesn't she take a part in Vengeance?
A little bit.
A little bit.
And certainly, I think that this issue, looking at what's going on here, is members of the Court of Blood, but I don't even know if we have named members. Maybe, but I think we have like Court of Blood stuff, and we have Prime Warden stuff, and we know a bit about like how this issue goes and how it resolves. And I think I want the result of this issue that doesn't even get covered in this issue to be Blood Countess Bathory is like, hey, Prime Wardens, I was doing a thing, and then you did this. We're not through. Yeah. Like, I want this to be the start of an uncommonly ongoing Court of Blood Countess Bathory.
Fanatic has fought Bathory before this.
For sure, yes.
Like, I know we have an image of that, but like, yeah, going not having her in Prime Wardens for this long is pretty good.
Yeah. And then that gives us, in the 90s, Blood Countess Bathory as a vengeful foe of the Prime Wardens feels right in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Okay. So I have kind of an idea. It's just a half idea right now.
Okay. Give me your half idea. We can work with that.
Is that there is some sort of, that they basically go to help a village, that there's like some sort of plague, that there's like a blood plague.
Yeah. Great.
And the plague, they're like, oh no, the people are dying here, but then the people turn into vampires.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and then we get some Court of Blood stuff at the middle end.
Yeah, but it's like they're doing this to go like, well, this is a test. This is a beta test for our product launch of
That's right.
every town becoming a vampire town.
Yeah. So there is report of some town in Europe.
Let's make it not obviously
like a Transylvania thing.
It's not Transylvania. It's like
it's a Slovakian town,
Germany or something like that. Just like a not
where you don't have this one when they show up have the trappings of like welcome,
right? Yeah.
Okay.
Unless we want to lean on that. So I feel like you either don't or you lean on the trappings.
No. But, Adam, you're absolutely correct. Let's do it. Let's do a completely different thing.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
A Canadian town.
Okay. All right.
This answers the question of why no Blood Countess. It's because some members of Court of Blood are like, hey, let's set up far from here. Let's like bring some blood vials and some blood thralls and some bloodhounds and some other cool words that you add blood to the beginning of it. You're like, wow, that makes it better. And let's like set up a base somewhere far from our home that we can try to transform. And maybe these ones are like trying to split off of the Court of Blood, or maybe it's just like, hey, let's expand our influence and have more places. And Blood Countess later can be like, this was not necessarily a good idea. And I didn't authorize this, but also I'm not in charge. I'm just like, I am in charge, but I'm not like ordering people around. People could do what they want in the Court of Blood.
I feel like that part, I feel like we go, interesting with her, that we go like, this was an interesting test. Like this is some more like information for later.
But she is still upset at the Prime Wardens for messing it up. Yes. Not because she was like, it's so important to me that this worked. She's like, no, you fought my babies.
Can we make a thing that she can do that is like she has a blood pool that she can travel between the blood pools.
Absolutely, of course she always has been able to.
So we can go like then. They're trying to make a blood pool here.
Right. They're trying to create
wherever those fountains are. She can
a nexus of blood power enough
she can
here.
descend into it and come out the
so like
one.
they go and they stay at like a little B&B,
a Holiday Inn Express.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I don't know if that existed in '91.
No, I don't know either.
Probably not. Holiday Inns definitely did, but
no.
Anyway,
a Howard Johnson probably.
There we go. No, but they don't stay at a hotel. They stay in a nice quaint cottage. The Courts of Bloods people. Let's grab a couple of courtiers. Let's. What do we got here?
Maybe they come to the town guised as doctors. They're like, oh, we're here to help the town as doctors.
I mean, they could show up as little old ladies. They're on vacation.
Well, I'm just saying, like, so that they can administer things to a bunch of people.
Let's go with. I don't know if you remember these people very well, Adam.
I remember pretty well, I think.
Good. What if we go with Katerina for a young one?
Okay.
And either Ilona or Ersi as an older one.
I don't remember Ersi.
Which is pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Let me look.
She also did blood pool stuff.
Oh God, the art in this.
Don't look at the art. Just get it.
No, that's
this
good.
Is concept. These are concept sketches done by some other artist. Don't worry about him.
No, her being with the
Yeah. So you think Ersi? You're good with Ersi?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, great. And then Katerina as I
remember Katerina.
Like, young upstart mage Katerina and older, more she, brains of the operation Ersi.
Yeah,
team
Katerina like seems like, oh, I'm her apprentice a little bit. Like
yeah. And like we're not going to see those for a bit.
Yeah.
But they'll show up, spoilers, later in this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is all well and true, Adam. We have now established who our villains are, what our location is. You cool with some small, remote Canadian town?
Yeah.
Great.
Why are they there?
No.
Oh.
No. That's not even.
No, why are the Prime Wardens there?
Yep, I know that's a question you're asking, but I'm trying to back up more.
Okay.
What's going on in this issue? We started this recording talking about Cuthbert. If we were reading this book in the 90s, like we did, we would have been reading and we'd be like, oh, cool. So in this issue, the cover tells us that they're going to be doing some sort of vampire thing, maybe. Okay, fine. But we've been reading this book for a while. There's stuff going on. What's going on in this issue? Are we having interpersonal fights between Captain Cosmic and Haka, who are mad at each other about something? Are we seeing an outside character to the team who is getting outsized influence over one of the members and driving a wedge between them? Are we seeing they recently had a big upset and they're drawing together more, but there's still some hurt feelings? Because these are the things, that's what's going on in this issue. Yeah. The fact that they also fight vampires is true, but that's not what they're dealing with. And as a reader, the thing that we care about is, hey, this is what's going on. This is what's been set up. And this is what's ongoing. That's what's happening in this issue. And they also fight vampires.
Right.
So I'm not saying.
Yeah, I think we need like something with a couple characters, probably.
Yes.
Like
right, there needs to be an interaction,
pulling in different directions.
Because what you do with this, I mean, this is the hallmark of Cuthbert's writing: is you have a couple of characters as the focal, one or two characters, either one character and a lot of their supporting cast, or two characters and a little of their supporting cast, and the interactions in between them, who are having drama of some sort. And it could be positive drama that they're having, but they're still having drama.
Okay.
And then you also have the rest of the members of the team that they are not the focal characters for this issue. So they are supporting cast for the drama and for the fights. And then you have the fight and you have the conflict. And the conflict and the drama aren't necessarily related, but they could be.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I have a suggestion, but I don't know that I love it.
I have a suggestion I don't know I love also.
Oh, man, I love that.
What's yours?
Okay. Mine is, what if Captain Cosmic has recently started a relationship with a human person that people haven't met, and there's an amount of like,
That kind of ties into mine, actually.
Okay.
Which is Captain Cosmic is thinking of quitting. So, like...
Interesting. I don't hate using these things in conjunction.
Both. Yeah.
Well, so what if this issue is the culmination then, Adam, of an arc that's been happening for a while here with Captain Cosmic dating somebody that the readers have seen, but the other members of the Prime Wardens maybe have not. Maybe one of them has or something. But then also Captain Cosmic having these like, I don't know, I feel like I should be either doing law stuff in England or in space looking for my brother. But either way, not this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having like a lot of he's having a lot of angst about what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's got things pulling him. He feels pulled to space, but he closes his eyes and thinks of England.
It's not that he's thinking about leaving. It's he's feeling like he should leave.
Yes.
It's the feeling more than the thinking. And this is the sort of thing, Adam, that A, we should do more of, and B, will make these episodes take longer.
Yeah, I mean, especially with like doing it out of order.
Sorry, I've got a lot of notes to write in here based on what we just talked about.
It's okay. That's one good story hook.
Well, I've got something for you.
Okay.
I was going somewhere with this, and so I'm putting in all the notes, and then I'm going to come back to you, and then we're going to talk about it, and then I'm going to alter notes again. This is okay. Adam.
Yes.
How do you feel right now? How are you feeling?
Feel all right. Feel
Great.
good.
How do you feel about this issue being the culmination of this? This arc kind of starts with the readers finding out that Captain Cosmic is dating somebody, and you see this person, and it's an innocuous, like, it doesn't really matter. Here's a person that Captain Cosmic is dating. But it's like, oh, this is a change in the status quo that starts in issue 66 a few months ago in June. And it's just a subplot that's going through of him being like, oh, yeah, I was like, yeah, okay, we got to go do this stuff. But sorry, guys, I got to go do other things over here on the side. I'm not really talking about it. It's not that I don't want you to know. It's just that, like, it's my own private life. I'm kind of pulling away from the team. And part of that pulling away is also this feeling of like, yeah, but what about my law career? Also, what about my brother in space? And this girlfriend person is like, he's kind of encouraging that. It's like, hey, you should do the thing that brings you the most joy. You should be, true to yourself, and so on and so forth here. And that's not necessarily wrong or bad, but spoilers for this issue. What if that's Katarina?
Oh, the whole time?
The whole time.
Okay. That explains why he's here also. Yeah.
I know. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then Captain Cosmic goes to visit his girlfriend in Canada.
She goes to a different school.
Totally accidental, by the way. But goes to visit his girlfriend in Canada and then doesn't come back.
I mean, why don't we put it in England then?
That's fine. Let's do it in England.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's lots of like small towns and castles and stuff in England.
Yeah. Great. So it's back in England. So yeah, he keeps going back to England.
Back home. Yeah.
Jolly old England. Yeah. Great. So, and that's right. It's like, oh, this is just home. And here's this nice British girl. Great.
Does she know he's Captain Cosmic?
Yes.
She does the whole time. So she's plotting this.
Yes.
Okay.
This is her doing a thing.
Okay.
And this is written intentionally in a way to make readers be like, hey, Captain Cosmic has a nice normal girlfriend, has a shot at a normal life. This is great. We like this. But then some readers are like, no, hold on. Captain Cosmic should be with the team and his his friends and his team and his bros, as opposed to this new interloper woman. And like, there should be the tug of war between those two sets of feelings. Because as a reader in the early 90s, yeah, right? This does the comics thing of hearkening back to some things that people are dealing with in their real lives of like, hey, I seem like after college and then all of my group of friends were so tight-knit, but then everybody got in relationships and started drifting apart. And so like you're pulling on those same sort of recognizable feelings from older comics readers. And then for younger comics readers, you're like, oh no, but hold on, is it this, is it that? Like either way, it creates good tension between the readers and their expectations about who are the in-group and who are the others. Anyway, this feels like a subplot that I would have read in comics in that era.
I've been like, oh man, Katarina, she was perfect until she wasn't. Like,
right. So and in fact, we don't have to avoid the name Katarina. It's not like this character is like, oh, Katarina, we know her from the Court of Blood of the 1960s. Right. Nah, this could be the introduction of the character.
Sure, yeah.
So in issue 66, we have the first appearance of the character Katarina, but
she
not
seems perfectly normal.
And she's just a normal girlfriend person.
Yeah.
Okay, so issue 66 is first appearance, Katarina, girlfriend of Captain Cosmic, who is revealed to be old and powerful vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're not doing this in the best order for audience of this episode being like, oh, cool, big reveal twist. Unfortunately, sorry, folks, but we are building this out. Most like this is the way that we kind of build stories out when Adam and I are not recording, where we like build out the things and then fill in the gaps. Okay, so issue 71 is not the first appearance, but it's the reveal of Katarina as vampire. Okay, so we've had this subplot going on for 5 issues before this.
So he thinks that she's also like from parts of this issue, at least, he thinks that she's also falling victim to these vampires until
that's right. Oh yeah. They're in this town. Oh no, vampire stuff's happening. He's like, I've got to protect her because people. This plague is affecting people. This blood plague clearly. And
then he's like, I've got this vampire dead to rights, but then she like goes
she attacks him.
Yeah.
Right. Because we'll think that Urzi is the one who's in charge. And in fact, actually, let's reverse this from what we were originally thinking, Adam.
Yeah.
We had said, Urzi's the one in charge. Katarina's the young apprentice.
Yeah.
Let's say Katarina's way older than Urzi.
Way older. Yeah.
Right. Like hundreds of years older than, or at least 100 years older than Urzi, and has been.
I like Urzi because she's got like she has like the very Marie Antoinette look to her. Yeah. That like her being younger and affecting that is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
But she's just like, vampires dress like this, right?
Right. You're like, she's like, I'm an ancient and powerful vampire, and Katarina's like, yeah, okay. So anyway, yeah. And so Katarina is actually the one pulling all the strings here, and Urzi is the figurehead of the thing.
Nice.
So.
Okay.
And also part of it, Katarina is like, Urzi loves to put on these vampiric airs. Honestly, great for this thing.
Okay. I feel like this is like, that's kind of the entirety of the first act that we've just like kind of done here. Yeah. That it ends up like Captain Cosmic is on his own there. He ends up.
He's dealing with, so he goes there, he does his thing, he's dealing with the blood plague stuff, he's worried about the people in this town where his girlfriend lives, in this small, quaint British town, and he's worried about protecting his girlfriend, so he's like, okay, you stay here in the house where it's safe, I'm gonna go deal with this thing, and then there's the vampire and there's Urzi, and he's like, ha, and he like constructs, and then she's like, I can't let you do that, says his girlfriend from behind him, he's like, I told you to stay home, she's like, well, hiya, okay, great, yeah, okay. Boom. Fantastic first act.
Yeah.
We open with some slice of life, Captain Cosmic stuff that turns into not just a slice of life, but a bite of life. A bite of vitae. Then we go back to the Prime Wardens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So we need another story hook now.
That's
for
correct.
Like something else someone else is going through.
Right, because now we have essentially the middle act in which the Prime Wardens are dealing with a thing. They deal with that thing. They're like, hey, wait a minute, where's Captain Cosmic? They find something out, and then the final act of the book is they go deal with this situation to save Captain Cosmic. Spoilers.
Right.
Is this too much for one book? I know it's dense at this time, but this is a lot.
No, this is not too much for one.
Okay,
1991 book. This is
great. That was my feeling as well, but I wanted to check in just in case, because I'm like, we can put the Captain Cosmic gets bitten by Katarina and the reveal to the audience of Katarina at the very end of 70 instead, and then do this issue as the book opens with the Prime Wardens dealing with a different thing. They deal with that thing as essentially, instead of 3 acts in one book, we can have 2 acts in one book and one.
Yeah, no, I think we can fit 3 just fine here.
I agree, because we can do what we've done so far pretty quickly, because everything we've said so far, a lot of the buildup of that has happened over the last several issues. This is the point of storytelling in this time, is that there's stuff that's going on through it.
Yeah, can also be very wordy and like. Oh yeah. Be like, so here's all the inner monologue of like, I'm thinking of going and living with my girlfriend instead of being a Prime Warden.
Right. The thing that happens in the middle of this book, Adam, is a newer thing that's starting up. The Prime Wardens are going to deal with a thing, and we're going to focus on 1 or 2 members of them to make that happen.
Okay.
They're going to be like, oh shoot, we've forestalled this thing. We're in the midst of it. We need Captain Cosmic, who's been pulling away from us lately. And that's the middle act. Mm-hmm. So that then future issues going forward from here continue dealing with this middle act thing that does not get resolved today, because we're about to resolve a different subplot. It doesn't have to start today. It started in a previous issue.
No. Like I'm trying to think of what that is, and like I had an idea that I think is dumb.
Tell me your dumb idea.
Which is, it's that like there's concerns about them, the way they operate legally, and they need Captain Cosmic to come and do that.
Okay, that's fine.
It's weird for the Prime Wardens. That's a Freedom 5 plot.
Or even a Dark Watch plot in a different way.
Yeah.
But so the thing that I can tell you is that we know that in the Prime Wardens book, in a few issues here, we have a notable fight between Captain Cosmic and weird Hippo. Okay. So right, like not a huge deal, but it wouldn't be bad to between Captain Cosmic and Haka and Hippo, it wouldn't be bad to set something up here that results in a few issues and be like, oh, now we don't have to because the thing that happens in a few issues could just be a start of another thing. That's fine too. There's space for that. But either way, the middle act of this book.
Okay, well, so what if it is extra Earth legal, extraterrestrial legal? That it's like,
okay, yeah.
There's some extraterrestrial law force that's like you're not allowed to operate outside of Earth.
Sure. So they you know what? Honestly, the rest of the going after this first act in England, going straight to space, having the rest of the team in space doing a thing, and then being like, "Hey, Captain Cosmic's not here. What the heck?" We know he's been saying, "Well, I've been pulled in lots of directions lately," but this is one of the directions he's been pulled in.
And so maybe it is.
I have an idea.
It is like if he were here, you could have argued this, but because you're not, like now we're confined to Earth for the. Legally from space law. I don't know, that's weird.
I don't know about that. But you could have a situation where they're going to deal with a thing. It's too early. I don't know if it is though, Adam. God, this makes this a very Captain Cosmic issue, but I don't hate it. I'm going to say a thing. I don't think I support it though, but I'm going to say it. We're saying dumb things, right?
Yeah, sometimes you say dumb things. It's fine.
What if we're dealing with the aftermath, not the actual thing? You could maybe have this section open with a minor fight, but then the fight is like the person they're fighting is on their way out, and the thing the Prime Wardens are focused on is trying to help the people that the person they're fighting put in danger. And that person is Infinitor.
It does feel like not the right time for Infinitor.
I know, right? But also Infinitor does do stuff once in a while between the 70s and the end. There are Infinitor plots. He is an ongoing villain. He's just a very sparingly used villain. And so what if this starts an Infinitor plot?
Yeah, why not? Let's start an Infinitor plot here. I think there's room for it, right?
Right. So we open this issue. We open this act. We go from Captain Cosmic bit by a vampire to space where the rest of the Prime Wardens are fighting Infinitor, and Infinitor is dismissive. Infinitor's like, I don't even care. I'm not dealing with you. Madness from space. Constricties that are weird and strange manifestations. Bye. And the Prime Wardens are like, what the, like, they're like, Fanatic's like, we must pursue him. And it's like, we can't, we have to save this planet. He has destabilized there's this cool planet that the core of it is somewhat exposed. This is a broken planet that has like chunks, and the core of it is exposed, but the core's magnetic resonance holds all the chunks in equilibrium. And so like people are able to actually live. There's just a bunch of like floating islands of land, and the stuff that's in between those floating islands is open space. And you're like, wait, how does that work? The answer is comics in the 90s. Don't worry about it. Yeah. But you have this situation, and Infinitor has come in and destabilized this core, and is like, I'm doing weird madness space stuff. And
so
now
there's like an action scene of them stabilizing the core.
Right. And so this gives a real conflict, a thing they can deal with, but they've not dealt with the foe. And they're like, hey, what the heck, Captain Cosmic?
Yeah. Okay. And so then that's a pretty decent act 2 of
right. It opens with a little fight with Infinitor, but he flees.
They do a thing. They go, where is he? Let's go find him.
All right, so Tempest is able to do some like weather stuff, and Haka has to hold 2 land masses apart from each other, and Fanatic flies around smiting the remnants of like weird manifestations that Infinitor left behind, and like Arjun Adept talks to the power of the earth of this thing, and in fact uses his virtuoso power to revitalize the core and be like, I'm going to imbue the core with natural magical energy to once again begin its resonance, because there's in fact the magnetic resonance that held this in place in the first place, and so his musical aptitude combined with the magnetic resonance is able to like make that go again in a different way. Great, cool. We have a cool conflict here that actually uses everybody and all their powers and all their interesting stuff. We have interpersonal, inter-team dynamics of the difference between like being mad at Infinitor, wanting to fight him. No, we got to save the planet, and then this whole time being like, you know what would make this easier? A, Captain Cosmic has Infinitor things. B, some constructs. Constructs would have made this easy comparatively.
Yeah.
And like he's been asking for more. I'm doing his own thing, and that's fine. But this is his own thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Great. So how do they know where he is?
Argent Adept can easily just
You just find him.
strum. That's where Captain Cosmic is. Let's go to there.
Okay.
Right. Like that one is not.
Okay. So
much
all
of a
right. So
stretch.
we have him do that at other times also.
Yes.
Okay. That he can just locate the members of the team based on their musical resonance.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
He's like, I'll play the tunes of a tune. It's like, oh, someone is in some weird far off place. I can't find them. They're in the realm of Discord. They're lost to me, or something. Like there's times in which he can't find someone if they're shielded, if they are in a lead box. If like there's various ways you can keep a person from being able to be located via strumming.
Right.
But passed out fighting against vampire. Like, oh my gosh. The reason Captain Cosmic doesn't become a vampire is because tiny constructs in his blood isolate the.
Oh my god, that's amazing!
It definitely.
That's such dumb '90s pseudoscience. Like,
yeah. It's like tiny constructs in my blood to isolate the vampires. Like, and like so the vampirism gets like pushed out of his body.
Yeah,
and it's like,
yeah.
No, it's better. So he tiny little constructs protect his blood from the vampirism, but then Argent Adept like does a magic thing to stabilize him, and then Tempest does some like alien surgery to open him up to let the vampirism out. Like it's a team effect.
Okay.
No, I keep going deeper on this. This is what they propose. It's like, okay, hold on, we can do the thing because he's stable. I can tell that he's unconscious, but he's used his construct ability to isolate the vampirism within himself and keep it from infecting himself. But those constructs won't last forever. We have to do a thing, and then Fanatic just smites it out of him. Fanatic's like, no more talk, and blasts him with radiant.
Yeah.
Right, and it's like the constructs, they're still there, but they're empty. What's inside the constructs has been destroyed, and so as the constructs inside his blood disappear, he's fine, and he comes to, and he's like, "Oh, what's up, chaps?
What?
What's all this then?
Yeah, what's all this then?" It's like very not the type of British that he is, but
no, not at all.
It's funny.
Okay,
for him
so
to be.
that's the very end of the book. Honestly, it's not.
That's
what we're gonna go to the next book with. We'll end the book just because we're putting so much here. The middle section with the planet is cooler than I intended it to be. So
I actually think we have plenty of time. I don't think that's very long. I don't think the planet thing's very long.
My thinking was that we could have this book end with the vampire stuff solved and the day saved, but Captain Cosmic still in danger. And then we open the next book with, okay, here's how we save him. We revive him. He's like, okay, great, thanks, guys. Oh, no, my girlfriend. Like, yeah, we'll explain that. And then we go to space to deal with Infinitor stuff. But if you want, we can try to put that at the end of this book. That's fine.
Yeah, I think that we can fit that here just fine.
Okay. We've already told it, so I'm good with that. Captain Cosmic.
Yeah, and this end section is pretty much just, and then they fight the vampires. Is there anything like super interesting that happens within that? Okay.
Yes.
Right.
This is the one thing I knew about today's issue is
Right.
compressed to the end section, but not. It's just the third act before the final end section, which is how we save Captain Cosmic from vampirism.
Great.
This may be the first appearance of Urzi as well.
It might be. Yeah.
That this issue, like Katarina's first appearance.
This is the first appearance of her. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So we have at the beginning when we don't have he's about to defeat Urzi. Katarina doesn't just jump on him and bite him. Katarina is like, oh no, and uses blood magic to isolate him, and then monologues a little bit about I was hoping you'd never find out about this. My hope was to turn you slowly, gradually, before you realize, so you could become one of us, be my thrall. But I guess we'll just do it this way. And so we get a little bit of villain monologue, and this is where we learn that she's actually in charge of it, and Urzi's okay, great, fine. Then we go off to space, Prime Warden stuff, Infinitor stuff, cool planet falling apart, put it back together, hooray. Then we find out where he is on Earth. Got to go back to Earth. This town now is transformed. Like, it's not transformed to look Transylvanian or anything, but this town before was like, oh, nice little quiet town. And then, oh no, some people are sick. What's going on? Now it's like, nope. This is a town of vampires.
This is the vampire town now. Yeah.
Vampire town, right. And the vampires are dangerous, and anybody that shows up, they're biting and turning, and like this has become a problem. The Prime Wardens are beset by them. Like they think the Prime Wardens show up and they're like, oh shoot, oh no, this is like too much vampires, too much trouble. We can't possibly fight all of them at once. Tempest is like, here we go. I'll make this fog so we can hide from them. And Fanatic's like, perfect. Yes, now that we have the fog, we hunt them. And it's like, we were using the fog to hide from this. Like, nope, we're using the fog to hunt them down and destroy them.
Right.
And then that means they're able to ultimately make it to Urzi and Katarina, and they're in their castle. They've taken over a small castle as their base because they're like, hey, we like a castle. We like a castle. We get a bit more monologuing, and Captain Cosmic is on an altar, and he's like, soon he will be what I would have always wanted him to be, the perfect boyfriend. And they're like, we can't let you do that. Not that we would anyway. You're a vampire. We defeat you. And then they have a cool big fight, and Katarina and Urzi do blood magic things to escape. Let's say they had established a blood pool.
They built it, and
they use it to go through it, and then Fanatic smites it, and it's like, okay, well, at least that influence is gone. But
purifies it. It just turns into a normal fountain.
Yeah. And they drink the water from it, and someone's like, that water was blood. Just Captain Cosmic comes to at the end. He's like, oh, dude, I'm parched. And drinks some of the water. Like, we're not going to tell him that was blood like 15 minutes ago.
That she could turn blood into water. So
of course.
When she purifies it. So.
Yeah. Done. It's perfectly good water.
She consecrates the pool. And then
it happened to be blood of all of the villagers, just a minute ago, but now it isn't. So it's fine.
Yeah. Great. So then I think we have a coda with Black Countess also.
Okay, sure.
That she sees them come out of the pool, basically.
Yeah.
And essentially just says, you were stupid to try this on your own, but good idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this issue is a great example of Fanatic in this issue is really one note, doesn't have a lot of emotional, we don't see her as a person. She exists to want to fight Infinitor, to smite vampires, to want to hunt vampires, to smite a blood pool, and to smite vampirism right out of Captain Cosmic. She is a tool in this issue. Other issues, she's a main focus character. We get important, realistic interactions with her. But this character issue, no. Haka in this issue, he's there to punch vampires. He's there to pull planet stuff together. He's there to be big, strong guy.
I think that he probably has a few things to say, when they're talking about, where is he? Or then,
they'll all have lines, right?
You're not feeling fulfilled by the team, sort of thing, or whatever.
Yeah, but and I think that we're gonna more likely have those conversations with Haka and Captain Cosmic in previous issues.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
not in this issue. This issue, we've already had the moment. We as the audience know Captain Cosmic is essentially on his way out, and Haka and he had a big heart to heart in the previous issue, probably. But this is a very Captain Cosmic issue, even though Captain Cosmic is unconscious for more than half of it.
And Tempest is there.
Yeah.
Tempest does the fog, and it seems like
Tempest does the fog in the vampire fight, and Tempest certainly fights vampires and does lightnings and pew pew pew. And Tempest does using the pressure of the weather system on the planet that's falling apart to pull things together.
No, I do think though this is a really good example of how these issues go though, in terms of we're focusing in on one character, and their team is there, and the team helps and whatever. But this is a Captain Cosmic.
Yep.
Story, basically.
Yep.
Which I didn't think it would be. I thought it was going to be a Fanatic story just by the nature of it.
Me too. I really did. And Fanatic definitely, it does cool things in this issue. You're a kid in the early 90s reading this comic book, you probably walk away from it going, Fanatic ruled in that issue. Yeah. She did the pew, and she did the whatcha, and she did the whatchwoom. And then reading it as an older reader, you go, oh, Fanatic was just a tool of smiting and power.
Yeah, and I think the Fanatic is useful and interesting versus vampires in terms of combat. She's exciting versus it, and but she is she's very one note. There's not going to be a lot of depth between her and a vampire.
Right. Right. Whereas we definitely do get those issues with Fanatic, just not this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Great. Oh no, Adam! I lost the recording. I didn't record any of that. It's all deleted.
I almost didn't start recording at the beginning. I was like, oh yeah, I need to do that.
I'm glad you did.
That would have been real bad.
It's happened before.
It has happened before.
And there's a thorn in my heart that whenever I think about it, it twists, and it's like, ugh. The thought of losing work that we're happy with is, ugh.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we live in a world in which cloud computing exists, and a lot of files that we have saved exist in a way that if a computer explodes or a building burns down, those files aren't gone.
Yeah.
Because
there was a time.
Even when we started the company, there was an amount of time where it's like, hey, this is the only place this file is right now. I hate that.
So I've been watching this documentary series, that I've watched.
Yeah.
Because there's only 8 episodes on Reboot, the show. I'm sure I mentioned it before.
Yeah.
But it's called Reboot Rewind. It's on YouTube. I really recommend it. It's great. But one of the things they talk about early on is that they're doing these renders, and if it errors out, then they just lose everything. And it's just like, well, we got to do it all from scratch. And there's a time at which they're putting together the episode, and the computer errors out 17,000 times over the course of it. And just like trying to create this thing, because no one ever did this before, and they're just forcing technology into a thing that it was not really meant to do.
That's so cool.
It's really cool, but like it highlights the advantage of like that we have now. It's so easy to make things on computers, right. And it's so easy to not lose things,
and it's so easy to not lose work.
Yeah. If I lose work, it's my own fault. And if I lose work, it's usually like an hour.
Yeah, I recently dealt with somebody doing some graphic design here who had the files they were working on saved on their computer, but not to the company Dropbox or the company drive, or like we have multiple ways to back this up. But they were like, oh, well, I just do it with the stuff that I'm saving. I just save it locally, and then when it's done, I upload it to the thing. And so then they lost all of that, and it was a bunch of work. And I'm like, hey, friend, let's talk about how this is never going to happen again, because otherwise I will eat all of my hair. Just eat my hair.
No, I don't have my cloud storage open all the time, but if I'm working, it's open.
Yeah. Oof.
And there have been times also that like I've really screwed stuff up and then reverted to previous saves. And I'm like, oh, look at how great this is. Like,
yep.
What amazing technology. It's very cool.
Yeah. The undo button in of itself, but then the extrapolation of being able to like mega undo is so nice.
Yeah, it's the way that I've really screwed up is saving a file over another file.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've done that.
And I'm like, I just don't have the layered. There are 2 arts in Definitive Edition that I don't have layered files of because I was unable to go back and retrieve them.
Why couldn't you get it back? The previous.
It's just how it was.
Because like
it's saved in the wrong place is why.
Because that's a thing that happened in earlier editions of Sentinels, where we had a couple of things that got saved that way, and we're like,
there's one in the no, they're both in the principals deck.
Really, they're new ones.
Yep.
Well, I mean that's okay.
There was just something that like I had saved a file somewhere else, and then I saved it there, and then it got deleted, and then it's just a weird thing, and I have the images, but I don't have the layered files. So,
man, well, hope we never need to do anything with those that require the layered files. We probably don't. I don't think so.
I mean, if that's the case, I'll just redraw them at that point.
Sure. Okay. All right. It's going to be a good shop talk here at the end of the storytelling section.
I think that's nice for people. People like that.
I hope so. Maybe that's better. Maybe that's better intro/banter.
Maybe.
And Trevor, you could cut out all the stuff talking about the weather, the thing we do all the time, and put that at the beginning and be like, hey, let's start with talking about how great Dropbox is or whatever. Dropbox getting buzz marketing from us again.
I mean, who doesn't know what Dropbox is Kleenex of cloud storage.
Yeah.
Because it's a better name. Than anything else. Google Drive sucks. OneDrive sucks. These are bad names.
They're fine names. I don't even think Google Drive's that bad of a name. Drive. This is like a hard drive. It's like, okay, it's
sure, but it doesn't really roll off the tongue. And just saying Drive is too unspecific.
Right. And so it's not that name is terrible. It's that like we've had this before when we name things in Sentinels, where it's like, well, the best name for this is there's no way around it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, all right. Let's go to questions. Let's go to letters.
Christopher and Adam reading letters to you. Christopher and Adam.
First letter today comes from an Arctic alpaca rancher. Makes sense.
All right.
Hi, CNA. I got into Sentinels back in 2014, but I really started playing more through the digital version during the pandemic. The game was a lifesaver, as I had to spend countless nights rocking my newborn to sleep and needed something to do while swaying. Through the digital game, I found your podcast, and now subject unsuspecting strangers to lore dumps about the best game ever. I'm sorry if this may have repelled more people than it enticed. That's okay, we do the same thing.
Yeah.
My daughter is not one of those people, however. While I haven't planned on introducing her to Sentinels for many more years, she loves the art and will sit and look through the rulebooks and the RPG books. She's probably in contention for your youngest fan. Have you ever listened to a 2-year-old talk to you about Chrono Ranger and Tachyon? It's a 10 out of 10 experience. Highly recommended. Wait, stuff like this has come up before.
Calmest 2-year-old. Mine would have just torn my book up. So.
But this is a thing that I've heard before, for people talk about, like, oh, you know, this a kid who grows up with this.
Mm-hmm.
There's kids out there that, because they don't know the difference between, like, the size of us versus the size of any other more established media, and so for them, like, the a household fandom for them is Sentinels, which is wild to me, because, like, that's the thing that's just, like, it's so tiny, so niche.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some kids out there like, oh yeah, well, this is just this is a big part of the world. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I feel some weird pressure about that.
Yeah, I can think of, like, movies that I saw when I was a kid that, like, no one else has ever seen, but to me it was, like, seminal. Like, you know.
Yeah. Okay. The word is cinema, Adam. I don't know what you. All right, back to the letter. Letter continues. I've caught up on the podcast. I decided not to ask questions originally, since any I had were often asked in subsequent episodes. I'm sure I'd remember and be able to ask questions later, right? Obviously, that was foolish. I'm now taking notes on my first re-listen.
All right.
So begins my first of hopefully many random questions from bygone episodes. My first question is about vampires and souls. Now you find out why this letter is in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
You've established that souls exist in the Sentinels universe, though what that means exactly is mostly left up to our interpretation. Yes, that's true.
Yes.
If someone becomes a vampire, do they still have a soul? If so, is it altered somehow? Becoming a vampire is usually associated with losing your soul in most, but certainly not all media. Okay, I do think that becoming a vampire, you don't lose your soul, because in Sentinel comics, your soul is kind of your person, your spirit, if you will. But I think that your soul is corrupted. And so people who care about such things would be like, oh, that soul is lost. That soul is damaged to the point of it being destroyed. But the idea is like, well, you still actually have it. It's just changed in a way.
Yeah, I don't know even that, like, the act of becoming a vampire does that even, but, like, doing evil acts will do that to your soul also, just as without magic even. So, like,
so you think that somebody like Baron Blade could have a corrupted soul?
I definitely think he does. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
I think that, I mean, it depends on the evil acts and, like, because, like, his evil acts are kind of abstracted to a degree. I don't know
if I agree on I'm loath to talk about the specific as how a soul works.
Well,
anyway,
sure.
but.
Yeah, I know. I don't think that there ever is a specific, but I think it's pretty clear that Spite is pretty corrupted and gone.
Right. See, Spite definitely. I think the idea that Spite is such an evil, normal person, because Spite's just a normal person.
Yes.
Later, we get drugs and powers, but I think that even without the drugs and powers, the idea that Spite is such an evil person that his vileness corrupted his soul.
Yeah.
I think is true.
Yeah. I do think that Baron Blade has a degree of morality that Spite does not.
For sure.
Like,
for sure.
That Baron Blade, even though, like, he endangers billions of people on the reg, he still, like, cares about things.
I think that one of the things that the comic book readership would have been like, this isn't very realistic, which, asterisk, comic books, very realistic, whatever. But genuinely, this isn't very realistic to the character, is the beginning of the Iron Legacy story. At the beginning of the Iron Legacy story, when Baron Blade, like, brutally and savagely murders the daughter of Legacy, I think that a lot of people would be like, hey, yo, wait a minute, that is uncalled for and outside the scope of what Baron Blade would do. And other people would be like, no, Baron Blade wants to kill legacies. She's becoming a legacy. He kills a legacy. That makes sense. But I think that there's a number of people who not unfairly say, it seems out of character for Baron Blade to murder a legacy so terribly.
Yeah,
even though he's done it before.
There is a difference between, like, shooting a laser at somebody and stabbing them to death. Like,
It for sure.
there's a difference.
I don't know that there's a difference in the result of the act,
No.
but the act itself, bringing yourself to do the act. So anyway, like I said, it doesn't matter that there's an amount of fandom that dislikes it and there's an amount of fandom that finds it perfectly in keeping. I think that argument is an interesting one, a worthwhile one to have.
Yeah.
But the resolution of it is less important than
But so like to bring it back to vampires, I don't think inherently that you just become a vampire and you have no soul or your soul is even corrupted necessarily. I think I think it's probably like the act of feeding on people that like kind of corrupts it further.
Sure, but I do think that becoming a vampire, your soul changes because part of becoming a vampire is dying and then coming back as a vampire.
Yeah.
And I think the act of dying and coming back changes the soul.
Mm.
So like there's the corruption of evil, but then there's also this person is dead.
You've been through the veil. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I think there's different ways that you can flavor a soul.
Sure. Yeah.
And
soul means whatever the story needs it to mean. Like sometimes it's just a currency. Like,
well, the thing is, Adam, it's actually very easy to explain and understand, but not to humans. We can't can't begin to understand. But like, if you were a more metaphysical being, you'd be like, oh yeah, I don't understand why these guys are having trouble with this. This is very obvious.
Right.
You've stated previously that becoming a vampire doesn't automatically make you evil, but it does alter your point of view. So this seems potentially in line with loss or alteration of a soul. Mm-hmm. I've mostly been thinking about this because of the vampire world. Oh, the vampire reality. Yeah. I have trouble believing that the Freedom Five would really become evil after turning into vampires. I don't think so. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah. Vampirism, messing with your soul, seems like a reasonable headcanon to explain this. It would also account for Ryan Frost remaining a hero, since his morality is rooted in intellectual philosophy more than any other character. Am I off base of the speculation? No, I think that's about spot on. The idea that, because and I think we talked about this with Frostbite, that the the Freedom Five, all the members of the Freedom Five are like, we're good guys and we do good things, and that makes a difference in the world. And when they become vampires, they're like, we make a difference in the world, and it's for vampire stuff. Whereas Absolute Zero has always been like, everything is futile, everything is terrible. We try to make things better, but it usually fails. Mm-hmm. And then when he becomes a vampire, it's like, see? It doesn't change anything. I'm still going to keep occasionally doing things to try to make things better, even though I know it's futile. But like, I really like Absolute Zero in stories like that, where you get like Frostbite, or in worlds where we say a little bit of this in Vertex too, where like there's an amount of like, the world is worse. And he goes, I knew it. I'm unbothered. We see this also with Iron Legacy, actually. Yeah. Where everyone's like, how could a hero fall? And he goes, yep. See? I knew it. There's a quote from one of the Iron Legacy cards I was just looking at recently. Absolute Zero, the Freedom 6 version of Absolute Zero in a fight with Iron Legacy has the line, that's the thing, you did give me hope. I was starting to think you were different. Guess I was right all along. Oh. Yeah, right?
That sucks.
That does suck.
That's very sad. Yeah. I can see a lot of people not liking that story.
Right. Yeah. But the thing is that, like, yeah. I don't know that I would have liked that story, but I enjoy what it adds to the world, and I enjoy the things it sets up. I think that reading that story is like, woof, this is rough. I think
at my age, when that came out, I would have liked it.
I think I would have liked it, but I would have liked it in a, like reading the Black Company books. Like, oof, this is rough. And it's well done. I enjoy it, but I kind of need a break once in a while.
I don't know if that's how I would have liked. I would have liked to.
You would have reveled in it.
Yeah, I would have been like, oh, but look, he's evil in this one. He's like, look, oh, dang, look at how badass that is.
Taking all the wrong lessons.
Yes, I was taking the wrong. I mean, that's the age I was. Like, I was
right. Yeah,
I was 9 or whatever when that came out. So
when Iron Legacy came out, yeah,
not even. Yeah,
no,
like 7 or 8. I would have been like,
yeah. By the time you read it, you would have been like,
I probably wouldn't. Yeah, I would probably would have gotten the trade paperback when I was 9 or 10,
sometime in the early 90s.
Yeah.
The letter concludes. Thank you for the great games, great storytelling, and great worlds. And Arctic Alpaca Rancher.
Thank you, Arctic Alpaca Rancher.
You might think, Adam, that this person was a person who ranches, like who like a shepherd or something of alpacas in the Arctic, but that's not the case.
What is it? What is the case?
This is a piece of hard candy that is flavored like Arctic alpacas.
I see. Okay. Okay. I imagine that too viscerally. It seems like probably a German candy.
It could be Scandinavian.
Or Scandinavian. Yeah. You're making some choices up there with your candies, with your confections. You make some excellent choices, but then you also like to throw us off, I guess.
Oh, see, I like those ones though.
Like, here's our fish chocolate. You're like, what?
Yeah. Give me that fish chocolate.
Oh, God. Yeah. I have a letter from Slyduck who writes, Dear Christopher and Adam, since we're discussing the Court of Blood, I thought I would mention another kind of blood, the blood of magic, the veins of power running through reality. Sure, that works, right? Anyway, ley lines. How do they work?
This is quite a dodge and a dive to get a letter about ley lines in.
Yeah. I bounced through the experts, and we came to the conclusion that ley lines, unlike Akash incarnation, are not an Earth-specific phenomenon. So do they run through deep space? Are they planet-bound? Do all planets necessarily have them? What about moons? What do they actually do? Are they truly like blood vessels, bringing magical energy to the various places it's needed? Or are they more like rivers, paths that run through the ground where math flows most commonly? Do they connect to all living things? Or do you have to go to find one in order to tap in? Pretty sure it's the latter. Does Orbo have his own ley lines? If so, does that give him magical abilities beyond most other beings, even if untapped? Is there a desperation event about Sorcerer Orbo, where he has a planet or at least moon-sized cape? Okay,
lots of things here.
Yeah.
Okay, first off,
I think that just answering the what ley lines are and how they are kind of answers all of this.
Probably. So ley lines are lines of magical power that run through all reality.
Yeah, I tend to think that they don't go through space, that they're in places where there is life.
Right. Yeah.
So like the moon doesn't have any there.
The moon does, right. If you have to have life on they're naturally, they are connected to life. Mm-hmm. I think that you could have there's like threads of ley lines that go through space, not in the
they like
sort of
wisp out from the planet. Yeah, that's cool.
Right.
Yeah. And like if there is a moon that has life on it somewhere, then you might see, like, if you could see ley lines, you might see the like tenuous cords between the two.
Right. And the moon, Earth's moon, could have is a good example of this is just a dead rock, but like it could have a ley line running around it. I think that there's it's uncommon to have, even a dead rock would have just like a single ley line to be like, this is speaks of the potential magic that could be here. Because if the moon became a bustling metropolis at some point in a very distant future. Right. And so I think that there's ideas like there's latent ley lines throughout all reality, but there's active ley lines where life and magical energy are.
Yeah. I think it's
ley
a
lines
chicken
are
and
kind
egg thing.
Where it's like, are there ley lines here because there's magic here, or is there magic here because there's ley lines here? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's no sorcerer or bow desperation.
I want to go through all these questions real quick because I want to make sure I hear things.
Okay.
Do they run through deep space? Are they planet bound? We've talked about that. Do all planets necessarily have them? Yeah. What about moons? Sure. What do they actually do? What do they actually do? Are they like blood vessels bringing magical energy to places where it's needed? No, they aren't. They're not like blood vessels or power lines.
They are lines of power, but
they're not power lines. Like the point of a power line is to bring energy from one place to another.
Right. Yes.
And that's not what they are. They are lines of power because there is power.
Right. It's not like an artery
or a vein or a capillary or anything.
Right.
It is like, no, that's not right either. I was going to say it's like lines that happen in the sky from where a plane has gone by as a marker, but that's not exactly right either. It's not a line left by magic. It is a line that happens because magic is there. We're gonna have to call it good enough.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
They don't. And right, we say that they're there because life is there, but they don't connect all living things. It's not like there's a ley line running from me to you to like. Right. No. Ley lines don't run from being to being.
No, you can go stand on where one is.
Yeah, or stand, and it's I have this mental image of ley lines like wrapping around the world but hovering like a few feet over the ground. They're not in the ground, they're like up.
Yeah, And they are like constantly like kind of undulating
Shifting.
a little bit, shifting. Yeah.
Yeah. Does Orbo have his own ley lines? I think that there are ley lines around Orbo.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that Orbo has an ecosystem on him.
Yes.
Also.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know that but they're not his magical power.
No, and I don't think he has magical abilities.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Now, a reality in which there is a magical Orbo, sure, fine. But I don't know that we've seen that. But I could see a magic in which Orbo is specifically a magic user. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Could happen.
Anything could happen. I don't think that does exist, but like
But anything could happen.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And we're not saying, it'd be impossible for Orbo to ever cast a magical spell.
Right.
It should be like, I don't know that ever happens, but it's not that it's to say it's impossible.
Yeah. Now to actually tie this letter into the episode, the Prime Wardens. Specifically, I want to learn more about Fnatic and her belief powers.
Oh, jeez.
Are these powers limited to what she does believe, or does it affect what she doesn't believe as well? For example, could she affect how ley lines work by simply not believing they exist? What if a villain was claiming to have an ability or ace up the sleeve and she decided they were bluffing? Would they lose that power or the bomb they had planted in the stadium earlier? No, so I don't think so. I think she has to believe.
She can. It's the counter positive thing. She can believe something into existence. We've seen it many, many, many times.
Yes.
But she can't be like, Adam, I don't believe you have eyeballs.
Yeah.
I don't believe you have eyeballs. Oh, no. Like,
you can't. You can't prove a negative. You also can't believe a negative is basically how her powers work.
Right. I mean, like, I believe many negatives.
Yeah.
I believe that there are no real life werewolves.
But
that is a belief that I have.
If a werewolf did exist and you believed that, it would not cease the werewolf to exist. Like
that's correct.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Letter continues.
Actually, what if it was reversed? If Baron Blade pulled out a detonator connected to nothing and managed to trick Fnatic into believing he had planted a bomb in Freedom Plaza, which would go off if she attacked him, would said explosion happen?
Yes, and we've seen it before.
Yeah.
The fight that we told the story of where with the Spear of Longinus, we told that story in the air, right, Adam?
I'm pretty sure we did.
Where it's just a stick, but she believed it to be the thing, and so powers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She absolutely. If you could trick Fnatic, be like, hey, Fnatic, nice to meet you. I am a billionaire. I have billions of dollars and gold bricks in my fancy skyrise condo apartment situation.
I don't think just lying to her grants wishes.
No.
But
no. You would have to make her, because she'd be like, okay, fine. She's not believing that. She's just like, yeah, sure. But you have to make that part of her, like, she has to have faith in it, which is why the Spear of Longinus thing worked, because she believed in the holy power of that holy relic. Right. And that it wasn't just like, oh, I believe you. No. You need to create an actual like connection.
Yeah.
So the Baron Blade example with the bomb, that example is a little weak. You need to give it some more connection. Give it a reason for her to have faith in it. Because I think it's true. There's a difference between believing something and having faith in something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I suspect that the true power relies on something deeper than a mere acceptance of a fact as true or untrue. Yes.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Yeah. In Latin, there are 3 ways to believe in something. You can either believe that a thing exists, you can believe or trust in a person and their truthfulness or abilities, or you can believe in something, which is used much more to talk about religious faith. Yes.
Great.
It's that one.
There we go.
Yep. It seems to me that her powers fall in the realm of this third belief specifically. Let me know if it's something else. Thank you.
Now you got it.
Thanks for this nonsense. Your friend, the patronal Pochard? Picard?
Pocard?
I don't know how to say that word. Sly duck.
Picard is a type of duck. Yeah.
Is it pronounced Picard?
Captain
Pochard.
Pashard.
Oh, okay.
Pashard.
Okay. Thanks, Sly duck.
I've got a letter from Drakazash, who writes, good time of day, cat. I've been very behind on the letters page and only now starting to catch up. I just finished listening to the Blood Countess episode, appropriately spooky, by the way, and I have a question. You mentioned that even if one were to decapitate and or blow a hole through her chest, the Blood Countess would survive if the appropriate magical rituals or whatnot are not done, making her functionally immortal. Yeah. My question is, would overwhelming force or overwhelm this immortality. For example, if Oblivion were to turn his full force against the Vampire Queen, would she be eliminated? Or would whatever remnants of her blood reform after whatever length of time? Would remnants of her blood even be left? I think if there were like remnants of her blood, it could maybe reform over time. But if Oblivion went brom, there would not even be remnants of blood.
Yeah.
And no, that she wouldn't survive.
Yeah, she can't survive from being completely atomized. No.
Right.
Yeah.
If you put her in some sort of like particle accelerator nonsense and then launched it into space and then launched 200 nukes at it, okay, nope, that's it. There's no more blood counters.
You got her. Yep.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. Thanks for keeping the podcast up. It's been a true delight to binge these on my hour-long commute to and from work. Sincerely, Drakozash, and then he says here, Drakozaz, since you seem to be having trouble pronouncing it, so feel free to pronounce it however you wish, as I greatly enjoy your shenanigans. Thank you. I would not have guessed that the ZH at the end just makes a Z sound, but apparently it's not Drakozash, it's Drakozaz.
It's Drakosaz.
Drakosaz. Yeah, we're pretty close.
Yeah.
Drakosaz.
Drakosaz. Drakosaz.
We'll do our best to remember that,
Drakosaz.
and we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Corwin Texley, last letter of this section, writes, "Hello, Christopher and Adam. Hugh Lousley, as a known Englishman, is regularly involved in spacified versions of English and Arthurian legends.
True.
You haven't told any stories about the subject, but you can't have a long-running story about an Englishman without having a story based around the subject.
Yep.
While asking about individual stories is a fool's errand, it does raise an interesting question. The Prime Wardens definitely had a moment where they, intentionally or not, acted as parts of the Knights of the Round Table. I don't know when it happened or what the circumstances were, but it seems like such an obvious story to me that I need to ask a simple question. In the inevitable Prime Wardens as Knights of the Round Table story, which Warden takes the place of which knight? Thanks, Corwin Texley." Oh boy, okay.
Yeah, so Corwin Texley is correct.
Yeah.
Like,
that's there, especially with Cuthbert being an Englishman also, and
and then you do right. You've got, but in that story, you do a Knights of the Round Table thing one way or another, and I don't want to get into each member of the Prime Wardens because this is an episode for sure, right? Yeah. If you want the Prime Wardens as Knights of the Round Table episode, great, do that. But I would say Captain Cosmic would be Arthur.
Probably. Yeah. It depends. Are we allowing anyone to be Arthur or are we allowing anyone to be Merlin?
Oh, sure. Because you could have a situation where there's an Arthur and there's a Merlin. And then in that case, you probably make Captain Cosmic Lancelot.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. There's something there. But you're right. There's no way you have Captain Cosmic, who does sword stuff anyway once in a while. Not often, but once in a while. And he's English. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I could see making him Galahad also because of the light aspect also.
Sure.
So yeah. This is definitely an entire episode's worth of content, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole without committing to something. So
yeah, and it makes sense that would have happened at some point in the history of the Prime Wardens, which leads to then there's two different RPG era Knights of the Round Table related stories that happen. Like there's one in the guy's book, and then there's one that we did a podcast about. So like, yeah.
But submit it if you want to hear it.
All right, we got some follow-up letters, beginning with one in which a thing that I hastily said offhand about and was incorrect about.
Okay.
They're correct to point it out. Vercingetorix writes, "Hello, creators. When the discussion of a Golden Age visionary touched on China during World War II, from 1935 to 1945-ish, there was such a blatant misstatement of an actual historical events that I feel obliged to offer a rebuttal. It is absolutely false to say that China was not involved in the conflict between the Allied and Axis powers. Japan invaded the Manchuria region of China in 1931, beginning a brutal occupation that erupted into open warfare in 1937, which did not end until 1945. The atrocities Japan inflicted on the Chinese people are horrifying, and I cannot quietly accept them being written out of history. If you want to have a very sad time, read about the Nanjing Massacre of the Japanese Research Unit 731. I agree with Christopher that China has a complicated history of internal factions vying for control, but in extremely simplified terms, the major communist and nationalist forces created a tentative alliance to coordinate resistance to Japanese encroachment. They both received significant support from the Soviet Union and the United States, as anything that divided Japan's forces was highly desirable. So while China is not typically included with the Allied powers, they not only suffered under Axis occupation, but gave their lives to fight against their occupiers. Their contribution should not be dismissed. This letter is written without censure or vitriol. I understand the games and podcasts you have created are meant for entertainment, not to be taken as authoritative on anything outside of greater than games. Everything was spoken extemporaneous without claims to any expertise, and I want this letter to be viewed as spreading knowledge, not haranguing ignorance. Thank you. Yeah, no. Letter received as intended, and you're 100% correct. I guess what I meant when I was talking about that was just that China was the less part of the conflict against like Germany and Italy and that part of fascism. But Germany and Italy were allied with Japan, and Japan was a big part of that. It was just like there were kind of two wars happening here. There was the Germany and Italy against European forces, and the US was part of that.
Yeah.
And then there was the Pacific Theater, which was a different war that's happening at the same time, and it wasn't a different war because it all became part of the same world war, and all of those things interacted. But this is the, like I said at the time,
you don't ever see
gross simplification
China in the World War II movies
unless you're specifically talking about that stuff,
right? So like that's it's interesting to learn about. I love hearing about this stuff. So thank you. Yeah. All right. I have a very long letter from a
It's the longest letter of the
mind.
day.
All right.
Fortunately, the second half of it is bullet point questions, and so that is longer. It looks longer than it is.
Okay. Dear Christopher and Adam, with thanks to Trevor and Jean-Marc, on August 16th, 2017, I was overcome by some kind of psionic premonition, embedded in the final moments of your visionary episode 31. I was listening to it the next day. Hearing that song for the first time became a fixed point in my timeline. It made me wonder if the Vanessa Long of what we would now call the metaverse was somehow exerting influence. Let us label the supposed influence as Exhibit A. The premonition itself was a powerful image of Vanessa Long singing homemade pop songs at an open mic night as a cathartic expression of her longing to be part of this peaceful world compared to her own. This rested me to buy the Amazing Laser Rider soundtrack, which also led me to the picture of Laser Rider's visionary Exhibit Z.
Of course, it's Exhibit Z. Has to be.
Is that? There's not. Never mind. I
There's
answered
not
my own question. A vinyl of the Laser Rider soundtrack, because I would really like one. In late April 2020, the tragedy of Juan Verde was revealed, but I was overcome again by a clearer vision. I realized that Vanessa Long in my mind was singing the song at the open mic night in the coffee shop where Juan Verde was working. Christopher and Adam never mentioned the song as an influence when they were crafting the tale. Could they have been influenced by the metaverse Vanessa Long as well? Exhibit B. Finally, something never sat right with me with Rockstar. The image of...
Hold on. Should we talk about that?
I don't think there's questions here.
Could they have been influenced by the metaverse? Or it's not a question. It's like, could it be?
It's a postulation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I got you.
Finally, something never sat right with me with Rockstar. The image of Rockstar singing to an empty room, Sentinel Comics RPG, page 333, reminded me of my premonition from 2017, but the corresponding image of Muse and Rockstar, Sentinel Comics RPG, page 347, Exhibit M, is what made it all click into place. There is a bright glow that appears to come from Rockstar, and Muse is awed or shocked by what she's seeing. And Rockstar has a third eye, just like Muse's mask. But what clicked is the revelation that Rockstar's painted star is on the same eye and seems to be the same color as the star on Laser Rider's Visionary on Exhibit Z. Oh my gosh.
This isn't page 347. The corresponding image of music. This is page 347 of the core rulebook.
What's 333?
Yeah, 333 is Singing to the Empty Room, so that page number is correct. But I wonder if it's 337.
Is it maybe in the Muse?
No, it's 337.
It's 337.
337 is the art that he's talking about.
Oh, okay.
Rockstar's star is on the same eye as, let's look at Visionary from... Yeah, so she has an eye on her, a star on her eye as well.
Rockstar has the family life that Muse always wanted. Rockstar's powers could easily be mimicked by telekinesis. Just as Dark Visionary / Darkmind could hide in Visionary's mind, could a Vanessa Long be lurking in Megan Lee? Don't answer. It's not a question you would answer beyond a time will tell. So let's go digging with questions you are more likely to answer.
Okay, but I'll also answer that question, but go ahead.
Yeah, all right. 1, you've hinted for years at the ability to peer into the metaverse. Is Metaverse Vanessa Long or Metaverse Vanessa Long involved in this? See Exhibits A and B as possible confluences. After all, the child is the center.
The child is the center. That's true. Metaverse and Metaverse Vanessa Long aren't like when you say involved in this, aren't like the reason that peering into the metaverse occurs.
No.
Right.
2, what is the metaverse context of Twist Your Mind? Does it involve Juan Verde in some way?
It doesn't involve Juan Verde. The metaverse context of it is a song.
It's just a song. Yeah.
It's in the metaverse, because I know what the metaverse context of Twist Your Mind is.
Mm-hmm.
The metaverse context of Twist Your Mind, it's a pop song inspired by Sentinel Comics that exists in that world.
Yeah.
Done. Yeah.
Number 3, did Laser Riders Visionary, yes, I'm compelled to use Z's when referencing Laser Riders.
Laser Visionary is here, spelled with a Z.
Visionary, yeah. Appear during the Oblivion Crisis.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so...
Because Laser Riders is already like a thing that Sentinel Comics is like, about.
So, like, is there, I don't know what the canon status of Laser Riders is in terms of like what...
What do you mean? Like, there's cartoons and stuff that were...
There's cartoons. It was an animated series. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But do the Sentinel Comics characters appear in the show?
Yeah, there was a cameo. There's crossover cameo between the two. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like unlicensed cameos?
It was a licensed cameo.
It's licensed. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. They did a thing.
Okay.
Because I think that also we talked about the fact that the Laser Riders show had comic books that Sentinels produced.
Okay, so there was a tie-in. Okay.
Yeah. That's super non-canon, but whatever.
All right. It was probably like a toy series that they did a show of, and then they did a non-canon comic, and then they did a cross license. Okay. All right. I'm up to speed. Great. Is this painted star in Rockstar's eye a reference to Laser Riders Visionary in some way?
Not at all.
No, it's not. No, both are kind of a reference to David Bowie. So... Does Megan Lee complain about her parents in front of Muse? If so, how does Muse react? If not, how interesting.
Megan Lee doesn't really complain about her parents that much.
No, I don't think.
Like the most she did, like, oh, my parents, like they don't get rock and roll.
Parents don't understand. Yeah,
right. Yeah, but not like, oh, my parents are terrible.
No, I mean, I could see doing something like that where it's like, oh, you take your parents for granted a little bit, like,
right?
It's like that's a good little bit of drama.
Well, it's like where it's like, oh well, at least you have parents, because it's like you don't have parents. Like, oh, I do, but they don't have me. Like, yeah.
It can be like not serious. It could be like pretty glib complaining, like the how you complain about anybody in your life that you do care about.
And it's like, well, at least you have them.
At least you have them, and like so that creates a little tension around. What would a Megan Lee cover of Twist Your Mind sound like?
Like a Paramore cover of Twist Your Mind.
Yeah. Yep. That's it.
Thanks. Got it. As soon as I saw the question, I'm like, I know what this is. I know what the answer is.
When Muse is using her powers on an individual, is this influence drawn on the page as a third eye opening on the recipient's forehead? If no, very interesting.
Yep. Definitely.
Yes, it is.
For sure.
Yep, you're making some assumptions here. Thank you for
I love it, but yeah.
Thank you for your time and creativity, and a special thanks to Trevor and Jean-Marc for sharing their amazing take on Visionary. Sincerely, Twisted Mind. Yeah.
All right, 2 things.
Shameless plug. Go listen to that album. It's amazing.
It's a very good album.
The Laser Riders. It's on Spotify.
It is. So 2 things. First off, the question that you said we wouldn't answer is there a Vanessa Long lurking in Megan Lee? The answer is no.
No.
There's not. 2, a thing you did not ask, but a thing I'm going to volunteer. Twisted Mind, how do you know that you're not this reality's version of Vanessa Long?
How do you know?
Like, you might tell me, oh, my name's not Vanessa Long. That doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
You could be this reality's version of Vanessa Long. There's just some details that have been changed.
Yep.
And with all the things you're asking here, and with what your name is and all that, I think maybe, and the premonitions you talked about at the beginning, all those premonitions, I think you were phrasing that as like, oh, is Vanessa Long showing me these things? Maybe she is. Maybe you are.
If you're looking for Vanessa Long, look inward.
Yeah, that's right. The child's the sinner, after all. The Golden Gunslinger writes, howdy, Christopher, Adam, and Trevor. A couple months back, I was listening to the episode about Visionary in the Golden Age, and I started pondering a question. That accent got away from me real quick.
It was fine.
Thank you. Is there any sort of dreamer event in this universe? If so, how? If no, thunder and mud, my instrument, the Concordic Harmonica entity, says I got a mission in that place with the big old lizards again. Some Earth lady. What? The big old lizards? Against. I got it. Okay. Sincerely yours, Jim Brooks, conscript, virtuoso of the void, the Golden Gunslinger.
That's fun. I don't think there's a dreamer event in the Golden Age universe. No.
Strongly disagree.
Really?
Yeah, I
don't think that we have enough time there to do anything. With that.
Exactly right. I think there is a dreamer in that universe, and unfortunately, it just never gets talked about in comics.
Oh, okay. Well, there's also no implication that it ever sure, but like if it's not on the page, it's not real to me. So
the thing that I would say is that if we were ever going to go back to that universe, the reason to do so would be like, hey, remember this universe with this thing, and you did the visionary thing? But now a dreamer thing. Like that's what you do with it.
I would just want to see a different part of the universe.
Oh, you could also do that.
Yeah,
that's true.
Because I think it's a fun universe to experiment in, but like I would want to get away from visionary entirely.
That's true. Both work. Yeah.
All right.
Either way, we don't have that comic book. 404.
Correct. Yeah. Endril writes, hello, Christopher and Adam. I greatly enjoyed the Golden Age Visionary episode, and I have a question about the metaverse regarding what happened in this episode. As we see here, the story homages the art style of the Golden Age since it takes place in the 40s, so I wonder how often is this art style used? I doubt they'll switch up the art style every time the comics want to flash back to the late 30s through mid-50s like this episode did. But was this the first or only time Sentinels went back to their older art style, or did they do it again for something?
I think the only reason to specifically go back to this art style, well, no, there's two reasons. One, if you're going to play in this universe of like, there's this one reality that is the Golden Age reality. Okay, cool. Two, if you're going to do a flashback and you want to do it very intentionally, like, we're going to flash back to this to a Grandpa Legacy story, and so since it's specifically that, it's not just. We're talking about something that happened in the 1930s. You don't need to flashback the art style. But if you're talking about a specific character, we're going to tell a Henry Goodman story, you might want to do that. But I think it comes up super rarely.
Yeah, it's very contextual. It's like if we're
on
doing
average,
a pastiche,
less than once a year.
Yeah, it's really only if you're doing a pastiche. So even if you're doing like time travel, they wouldn't do it. But
right,
yeah.
Oh, you know what's cool, Adam?
What?
An issue drawn in this Golden Age style that a modern hero travels back to.
Yeah.
And the Golden Age art is all drawn that way, but the modern hero is drawn in the modern style.
Oh, yeah, that's fun.
A cool issue where you do it with somebody like Setback, or maybe you could do an Omnitron X thing, but you have somebody where like all the comic book is Golden Age style art, but then this one character is like, whoa, and here I am in my.
I think what I would use that for is to juxtapose like the supposed wholesomeness of the era versus like the cynicism of the modern era. So
and then the other thing you do with it is you have it so it's like I'm not just traveling to this time, I'm somehow displaced that I'm in this time.
Yeah,
because if they fully travel to the time, then they get to be in that art style.
Yeah,
there's like, I'm here, but I'm also somehow like disjointed from time. What you do is you do an issue in which somebody's like skipping through various time zones or time eras weirdly, and the art style keeps changing, but they stay constant.
Yeah.
There's a lot of characters, because I could see doing that in a goofy way with guys, but I could see doing that in a serious way with Chrono Ranger.
You could also do it a serious way with like Legacy and go through his history and stuff. Like, yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. There's a lot of cool things.
I think it's better with Wraith. Actually, it's way better with Wraith because she's had so many different tonal eras.
Yep.
So
having modern Wraith, or even you do a thing with like future Wraith, you're like, we take gritty, futuristic, like Extremiverse Wraith, but then have her go through
or something like that. Yeah.
All right, I've got a letter from Mobek, who writes, I've been reading some Golden Age comics recently, and I find it fascinating to see science fiction concepts applied to things that were not well understood at the time, but are common knowledge today. For example, hypnosis effectively being magic back then, but not only as mind control, but also for supernatural effects like time travel and divination. Rubber masks were also commonly used and fooled everyone, like in Mission Impossible. Was there ever an occasion where a Sentinel comic story featured these plot devices?
Oh, certainly.
Absolutely. Yeah. You definitely have.
It is like an ongoing joke to me about like the effectiveness of rubber masks in like the 70s and earlier. Which, like, if you see rubber masks from that era, you're like, why? Why would you believe this?
Well, because the fantasy of rubber masks is much greater than the reality. Where you're like, imagine you pull the rubber mask on and you just looked.
You just become that person, basically.
Like, that's cool. What if the rubber mask was that good?
Yeah.
So,
but comics pretty routinely do that. I think that's
So we get rubber masks, we get hypnosis, we get. I'm trying to think of other tropes from the golden age of stuff that it's like that modern, like, what would you do?
Coating yourself in asbestos to stop fires.
Oh,
It's
yeah. Yep.
That happens so often in real comics that it's just like, oh, well, I just put on this asbestos suit and now I'm fine to prevent fire. And
You
you're
might
like,
have other problems, but don't worry about those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somewhat related question here from Mobek.
Same writer.
Yeah, recently I was reading some comics from the 1940s and the characters were jumping around on a giant typewriter to solve some problem. I noticed that there were several other issues where similar scenes took place using like a giant toaster to launch into the air after the bad guy, or a villain trap that took the form of a giant kettle. Did anything like this happen in the early years of Sentinel Comics?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, there's definitely, you get like giant oversized prop things, you have set pieces. It's just a goofy thing of like, you can make anything giant and happen. And it's fun. It happens. The Golden Age was a time much less governed by any amount of continuity or an attempt at realism. Not the realism of like superpowers, but the realism of, okay, in this world, this is how the rules of how things could work. So.
Yeah. So there is a philosophy in German expressionist film that something exists because it has to. And I always think of that like when I'm watching, like if you watch the movie Batman Forever, like Riddler has this giant question mark complex that has like these towers like full of, and like, where did this come from? Who built this? It's a steel island that just appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah.
He has it because he needs to have it. Like that's and that's
don't worry about it.
Yeah. That definitely occurs.
All right, my last letter of the day is from Chaos Clockwork, who writes, Dear Team Sentinel, the recent Visionary story seems like a good opportunity to ask you for some advice. See, as often happens to people who like superhero stories, I'm finally writing one of my own. Congratulations. My friends recently bullied me into getting back into writing. Those are the kinds of friends you want. That's the kind of friend bullying you want.
Yeah.
The story is going to involve some time travel back to the 40s. Since Team Sentinel has done rather extensive research into the history of comic books and superheroes, do you have any recommendations for resources on the feel of the period? I have a reissue of JSA #1 somewhere around here, and while it is amazing, including an appearance by Asbestos, it's only one comic. Any scholarly works or at least easy to find anthologies? Thank you for all your inspiration. Chaos Clockwork.
So you can actually, I don't know if they're still in print, but there's like they do like the Batman Chronicles, I think, that is reprints of the old the original Batmans in order, in publication order. And so like reading some of those is useful, or like there are some sites on the high seas that you can read some scanned issues.
Yeah, you just
which I'm not going to
you do some sailing.
Do some sailing, and you can run across some things there. Tonally, though, I think that when you're going to the 40s, aim for less super. That, like, for instance, Superman could not fly in his first appearances. He could jump really high,
right?
And he didn't have like a bunch of extra powers. Just had it's just pretty much a strong guy. So like. That's what I would say is like tone everything down a lot. And most of the villains in that era were either just Nazis or criminals.
Yeah. You get occasional robot stuff.
You would get some robots. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was like, these are the problems that we're dealing with. I'm just going to have them fight that. And then like supervillains kind of came in a little bit later. But
there's also a book that I recommend called Pulp Empire by Paul Hirsch. Paul Hirsch is a historian. Is a professor of history who wrote a book about what's going on in the world around Golden Age comics. So it's less about the comic books. It's less useful for that, but it tells you a lot about the world that those comics were written in, which is important context. It gives you a feel for the whys and wherefores of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, if you're familiar at all with pulp storytelling, also that bleeds a lot into comics too, like Doc Savage, Conan, stuff like that. Like that was all in comics also. So,
all right, Adam, close us out with one last letter.
Last letter is from Bri the Guy Jewett, who writes, I think it'd be neat if the Argenata played a pipe organ to do some magic while the team fought a bunch of vampires. It'd be a pretty sweet cover. Enough said.
Cute. But I don't think that's the direction.
No, I don't see that as being off the table for some time, but that's
Right,
not
yeah.
really.
But this issue isn't enough about Argent Adept.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about a cover?
Let's talk about cover.
All right. So the question is, I mean, it's got to be vampire stuff.
It has to be vampire stuff. I actually know what this is. It's like, because of what artist it is, we know what artist this is.
We know what artist it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about it, or do you just want to?
I think that it is Captain Cosmic.
Yeah.
And he is like, there's statuaries and mausoleums.
Yeah.
And
this cover is not a very good example of what the city of the British town looks like.
No.
The cover makes it look like it's Vampire Town right off the bat.
Yeah.
Which it never gets to this level, but the cover makes it like, oh, he's in Transylvania.
Yeah.
And there's vampires coming at him from the sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
That's what. And
It's Captain Cosmic beset by vampires in a vampire sort of setting, which in the book doesn't really happen in that way, but the book does reveal, oh, it's going to be vampires, which is not enough of a spoiler to actually undermine the big twists of the story.
Correct.
So,
all right,
cool. Thanks everybody so much for listening.
Thanks as always to our patrons. We could not do this show without you. If you'd like to become a patron, head on over to patreon.com/theletterspage and help us out. Support us. Keep us going.
That's true. That's true. Join us next week for episode 312, A Writer's Room about Calpyso versus Ra. It'll be fun to talk about. We haven't talked about Calpyso in forever. And we haven't talked about Ra in a while either.
Yeah, it's true. All right. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. I agree. You've convinced me,
Let's
Adam.
give some meat to that character.
He'll just cook it.
And then we'll have soggy meat. Oh, I was.
Oh. All right. Adam, it was great recording an episode with you.
Yeah. You too.
I like this one.
Yeah,
it's
good. It's fun. Yeah, it's a fun one.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
The Letters Page is a weekly podcast featuring fiction from the world of Sentinel Comics, written by me, Christopher Bedell,
and illustrated by me, Adam Repetaro. We're also your hosts.
The music that you hear was composed by me, Jean-Marc Giffen, and is used courtesy of Handelabra Games.
The song, Christopher and Adam Reading Letters to You, was written and performed by Christopher's brother, Anthony Bedell. The show is edited and produced by me, Trevor Casterline. Thanks for listening and supporting the multiverse.
To you, Christopher and Adam. Christopher and Adam reading letters from you. Let them read 'em at you. Let 'em read 'em at you. Oh, Christopher and Adam. Christopher and Adam reading letters to you. Christopher and Adam. Christopher and Adam.
Vampires.
Nosferatu vampire bit my.
Yeah.
That's the title of the episode.
Tisn't.
No, that's from some rap song that I don't know what it is, but like,
yeah, I know you say that all the time, but I actually don't know the reference.
No, it's just like my friend group in college used to quote this rap song, just that line, and I don't know that I ever even heard the song. I maybe heard it once.
You're just used to when vampires come up, it is your job to say that line.
To say Nosferatu vampire bit my. Yeah, that's it.